Hello and welcome to another video in my Web API.NET Basics series. So in the previous video, I started the calculator theme where we are going to build a series of videos around the calculator theme and try to learn some things in the process. So now, as always, please go ahead and follow me on GitHub, website, email, done, right? Okay, so in this case, in the previous video, we built a very simple bare bones console project which just has two numbers and it goes ahead and adds them, subtracts them, multiplies them, and divides them. Now in this one, we are going to take that concept and convert that into an API endpoint. Now we already saw how to build API endpoints in the previous series of videos, so you should be familiar with that right now. So I'm not going to go too deep into things which are already discussed, but I will go ahead and create a new project now. So let's go ahead and do that. I have my learning diary here. I did mention that I'm going to follow up the learning diary. So next project is simple calculator web API project. So that is what I'm doing here. And I think I have a readme here as well. I forgot to add the readme here. Documentation, so important when you're working on a project. So let me do that. So I'm going to simply reuse the, yeah, there we go. Let's put that here in the title. Reuse and repurpose. That's what I'm always thinking. So simple calculator projects. I think I have a title already, so I could, yeah, there we go. Project build to show calculator. Why are there spelling mistakes? All right, there we go. Okay, sorry about the spelling mistake. Okay. Okay, there it is. And the projects are, where is my diary? Yeah, there we go. First project is this. And the second project is the one which I'm about to create right now. The third project hasn't come yet. We'll worry about that later. I don't have any references right now, so I'm going to delete that. Everything else seems okay. Okay, all right then. Okay, coming back to the diary. All right, so this is the next project, the Web API project. I'll go to Visual Studio. Let's go ahead and create that. ASP.NET Core Web API. So far, so good. Yes. And right, I don't think I need the word project every time. I can just call it Web API. Yeah, that seems much more practical. Okay. Okay. Yes, and next. And .NET 8, yeah, everything defaults is good enough for us. Here we go. And as always, I've forgotten to get the water bottle. Hold on. Yes, here we go. Now, just like last time, now what I do want to do is I want to keep the style of these project consistent with my demo project. I've mentioned this before. Now, ultimately, at the end of the day, my plan is to build a project which is similar to this comic book shop project. So let me go ahead and I can clone it or I can download it. I think I'm just going to download it because I don't plan to make any changes. See, when you're getting a repository, you always have this thought like, should you clone the project or should you download it? Now I'm going to tell you, like, maybe there should be a separate video. You know what, let me make a note of that. Clone or download a project. I think that should be a separate video. So hold on, I'm just going to make a note of that. Yeah, clone project or download a project. Yeah, I think that should be a separate video. Yeah, I think I'm gonna just upload that as a separate video. Yeah, don't worry about that later. Okay, all right then. So I've downloaded this one. So let's go ahead and get that here. Okay, and let me just extract that. Yeah, here we go. Extracting. Now I will keep referencing my own projects so that, like, because every week I'm always learning something new or something changes, things are always evolving. But this project, I want to keep that as a reference point. So yeah, I'm gonna use that always, every time, as a reference point. So the style is consistent. I don't want to mess something else up, Yes, open. It has multiple projects. Yeah, multiple project solution. Okay, there we go. Now here, what I am interested is, now the new thing that we are doing in this project is, of course, we will be collecting some input. Right? In the previous NASA project, we did not collect any input. So here the additional challenge is we have to connect some input. Now, if I go to my example project here, and if I go to my views, and if I go here to the coupon thing, and I go to the create thing, for example, I see that there is something called as a form. Right now, we will be using the form to collect the input. Right, so this is something which we'll have to follow. So let's go ahead and give it a try. Now, as always, when we are doing the API, so again here I'll go to my services, and I want to go to my coupon thing, and I want to open one of my endpoints so that I follow the same style that is being followed here. So let's get all the basics in place. So here I will go back to my current project. Oh, I don't think I've opened it yet. It is open. Okay, so I have my controllers and everything, which is great. But what I really want is, because we are taking input and output, I do want a request DTO and a response DTO. So I'm going to use this one here. I have my response DTO, and I want to keep this consistent across my project. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a folder called DTO. We'll worry about what a DTO is at some point in the future. I am sure I use the same thing in my NASA project as well. Yes, I did create a, oh, I didn't use a DTO there. I didn't do that there. Oh, okay. I did use a DTO, but I didn't use the response DTO. So, but I think in this project, I'm going to start using the response DTO. It really does help. So let's do that then. So I'm going to use my example project. I have here a class called response DTO. And let's go ahead and put that here. Okay, and this is going to have the same stuff that is here. So I'm going to take this class and I'll just put it here. Okay. Oh, I did promise I'm not gonna copy paste everything. So you know what, let me not copy paste that, right? Okay, let me type it out. I think if I start doing this, I might just do that for everything. So what am I talking about here? Now, what is this response DTO? So response DTO is like a standard class that we use because we don't know what we might be responding in different circumstances, and also things might become a little complex when you have to deal with errors and add stuff. Sometimes you're returning a single object, sometimes returning a simple collection. So there are many reasons why you do this. I'll probably make a separate video on response DTO at some point in the future, but for now, just go with me, put faith in me and just use it, right? So in a response DTO, a lot of times you will have at least one like a generic response type. So we're going to use, in a C#, we have this thing called object. So we're just going to use that. So I'm going to say public, okay, and I'm calling this object, right? And this can be null, so we're going to make this nullable, and then I'm going to say result. Or if you want, you can use any word you want, but I'm going to stick with the word result, like a standard word, right? And then of course we put the get and set stuff as usual. So that part is fine. And we do want to go ahead and mention if the API call was a success or failure. Very useful for, for when you're building UI and things, or you want to do some diagnostics and things like that. So we are going to say public, and then you're going to say bool, and here I'm going to say success, right? And then the next thing I want to do here is I want to say add a message, so I want to say public string, and then I want to call this message. Okay, so there we go. So again, we'll make all of this optional so that we don't get that warning thing, right? They can be optional. So there you go. That's why I use the question mark symbol. So I have a nice response DTO. So that sounds good. Okay. So the next thing what I want to do here is, now when I look on this project, you'll see that whenever I am trying to, we need to collect some input here. Now we need to do that. So if I go to this one, I do have a HTTP post. We have that. So we have a HTTP post, so we can collect input from the user. So when we are collecting stuff, we do have a DTO for that as well. In this case, the DTO we're using is called something called public coupon DTO. So let's go ahead and create a DTO to take the two numbers. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to say, I'll call this number input DTO, because we are collecting numbers, right? Number input DTO, right? Okay, so just a DTO, it's a class which will help us to collect input. Now we are essentially just collecting two numbers. And so what we are going to do is we are going to say, just like we did here, we're just going to say public. And I'm collecting a double value. So I'm just going to go ahead and say double. And then here I'm going to say first number, just like I did in the console project. And I'm going to do that. And then here in public double, I'm going to say second number. Now, as of now, this is a very simple DTO. All I want is two numbers from the user in the input. So I'm happy with it. So that's all okay. Now, this is fine. So I have the input DTO, just like I have it here in the comic book project when I go to the controller. And obviously I have the response DTO. So far so good. Let me see if there's anything else I need. Not really. So these are the only two things I need. Now let's go ahead and add a controller and start with a simple add endpoint. Okay, so I'll go here, I'll go and say add, and I'm going to say controller, and I will say API controller empty. So we are going to write all the code ourselves. So we'll start with an add code. So here I'm going to call this one the calculator controller. So I'm just going to call this one. We already used the word calculator in the project title. I guess there's nothing wrong in using it again. So we just call this calculator controller. All right, there we go. Now here what I want is, so once again I'm gonna go here, and what are some of the things I want in the beginning is I do want a response DTO, right? So I promised I won't copy paste. So, it's so hard not to copy paste. It's my own code, so I am allowed to copy paste. But okay, so it's gonna be a private thing. I'm gonna call this private. Response, what is that called? Response DTO, and then I'm going to call this response DTO. Okay, so there it is. Okay, and then I think I need to use, normally people, what they do is when they're creating private things, they use an underscore. So let's do that. So okay, and then let's go to the constructor of the controller, and then we are going to initialize this, and we'll say response DTO. Okay. And then here we'll see here, hey, you know what? Response DTO actually had like a, if I'm not wrong, there was a constructor for that. Let me just make sure it's not there. There it is, right? Okay. So here what I want to do is success. I want to give it like a message. Okay. I want to initialize it right away. Actually, oh, that's the Boolean value, sorry. So I can do something like this, empty message. And here I'm going to make this true. So I'm just going to assume, I will assume that by default, everything went fine. Okay. And by default, there is nothing to report. Yeah. Okay. All right then, so we got that part, so that will get initialized. Very nice, very nice. So next thing what we want to do is, I've got this one initialized as well. So I want a simple endpoint that takes two numbers, performs addition, and sends the result. So I will go ahead, and I have my coupon API controller here, and what I want to do is I want to do like a post, right? So I'll go ahead and call this one HTTP post. So that will take care of the post thing. I want to make sure that am I supposed to be adding a root here? Is that even required? I think it's better if I put it. So I'm going to say root, and here I'm going to say add two numbers. I think that is good to have the root there. And then the next thing what I want to do here is the response DTO is going to stay as it is. So I'm going to say public. Okay, a response DTO, and then here I'm going to use the same name as the root name, add two numbers. Now this is where things get a little interesting. So what I want to do is I would like to go ahead and collect the values from the body. Now I don't think we have to use the from body attribute, because I have in some of my projects, I haven't really used the from body attribute all that much. If I go here and I go to my for Blobber project, and I go to my controllers here, Web API demo, there you go, and I go to my controllers and I say, yeah, translator controller is also taking input. You can see here I'm not really using the from body thing, but if you look at my comic book project, I am using the from body stuff here, but I'm not really using it in my this project. So I think we can get away with not using the from body. So we'll see if we get an error or something. So I'm just going to say the input DTO, right? So I'll come here and I'm going to say input DTO and then input DTO. So that's what I want. And then here we go. And here I am going to say return, and I'm just going to return this one. So we have that part working. Now I haven't added any logic yet for the addition, but I want to test and see if this is working. So let's give it a try. I'm going to say build, rebuild. So far so good. And then let's go ahead and run this. And I should get the Swagger UI right away. There it is. I have the add to numbers, post, good. Try it out. There you go. I'm getting it just fine. And I'll call this one 10. I'll call this 20. And I want to put a breakpoint here so that I know it's getting hit. I'll come back to the Swagger. That's going to be Google Chrome, execute. There it is. And if I go there, I am getting the numbers. So the input is working fine. So this is okay. So, you know, I know in my comic book project, I have gone ahead and used from body. I realize that may not exactly be required right now. So I think we can forget about this. Maybe there are scenarios when we have to put that, but here it seems to work just fine. So we'll not worry about that because I've already tested it in my other project where I did not mention that, and it still works just fine. So it's okay, it's already tested. So there we go. So that part is okay. So we have this working, and you can see here when I click on continue and I check the response in Chrome, I do get a response that says result is null because we haven't done anything. Success is true by default, and there's no message because we put it as empty. So far so good. Now let's actually add some business logic here. So here I have two numbers, so I'm going to say double, yes, result is equal to, I'm going to say number input DTO dot first number plus number DTO dot second number, and here I'm going to update the response DTO. I didn't do that last time, so I'm going to say response dot DTO dot result is equal to result, and I'm going to say response dot DTO dot message, and here I can add any message I want. I can say addition operation was successful. Yeah, so there you go. And that should do it. So let's give it a try one more time. So build, rebuild. So build, rebuild, and then hit run. You'll get the Chrome thing. Go to calculator, try it out, and let's put some numbers, 10 and 20, execute. It comes to the Visual Studio, and I can see the response DTO. I'm getting 30. Nice. I'm getting the message addition operation was successful, and the success thing is true. And I click on continue, and there you go. The response looks just fine. So far so good. And let's do the same thing in Postman as well. So just for the sake of doing it, so I'll go to Postman, and I believe we already had a workspace for this series, so I'm going to say allow there. And Web API.NET Basics. So I'm going to create a new collection. I'll call this one simple calculator, right? I wonder if I put this collection, should I put it in the GitHub thing? I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe it's not required. Yeah, I don't think I'll put that. It's fine. I don't think it's needed right now. If it needed, we'll put it later. That's fine. So let's go ahead and add a request. And this is for the add two numbers. So let's maintain some naming consistency over there, and I want the URL. I can get that here from the Swagger, right? There's no authentication or anything like that. And then I'm just going to hit save. Okay, there are some other things here. Let's copy all. Let's close all these things. I don't want this to be cluttered. Okay, there we go. So we have this. So here I'm going to go to body. I'm going to select raw JSON. I can just copy the JSON from here. You know, I don't have to type it. So I can just copy from here. But you can type it if you want. Same numbers, save. And then I'm going to remove the breakpoint because I think it's working fine now. disable if we need it later. And I'm going to hit send and I'll get the response. Oh, 405. Oh, what's happening? 405 method. Something is not right. Oh, I think it has to be form data. HTTP post. Application type. JSON, yeah. Why is that? 405 method not allowed. I don't know what that means. Hold on, why is that? Very interesting. Just doing a simple. Oh, post, sorry. Oh, it has to be a post. Oh, there we go. There it is. I started panicking there. So that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes, you think you are not making a mistake, but you make this thing. So the reason was I used get, but you'll notice there is no get endpoint. This is a post endpoint. So when I try to do get, it says obviously that method is not allowed because the method doesn't exist. So I went back here, made it post, and came back, send, boom, there you go. 30, success is true. Message is addition operation was successful. So it works just fine on Postman as well. So far so good. Let's now that we have done that, let's quickly do the remaining things. Now I hope I can copy paste here because I did type this by hand. So this is for subtraction, this is for multiplication, this is for division. So I'm gonna go here. The second is going to be sub to numbers, right? Let's do that. Cool. And just change the symbol to minus. Very nice. This is going to be multiply two numbers. Okay. Let's change that there, change that here, just change the symbol here. Okay, very nice. And this one is going to be divide two numbers, and here we want to say divide two numbers, and this is going to be slash. We want to change the English as well, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to say subtraction operation was successful. I'm going to say multiply operation was successful, and finally I'm going to say division operation was successful. So far so good. Let's quickly rebuild this and hit run. There we go. Let's try that. Let me just try it out with add again. So I want to say 10 and 20. I'll just copy this so that I can just repeat it. So there we go. Response is 30. Everything looks great. Let's do the same thing with subtraction. Okay, execute. Yeah, there you go. Minus 10. Subtraction looks successful. Multiply again. Let's do that. Check. 200. 10 into 20 is 200. Very nice. And division, try it out. Okay, and voila, it says 0.5. So far so good. Now we want to check what happens if we try to divide by 0. Yes, so let's change this to 0 and execute. And it says, look at that, response status is 0. .NET number values such as positive and negative infinity cannot be returned as valid JSON. To make it work using JSON serializer, consider specifying JSON number handling .allowed name floating point name literal. So there is something which is going wrong. So there is an exception being generated because we tried to divide by 0. So we were expecting this. So what can we do here? So let's put a breakpoint. Let's see where it is crashing. Is it crashing here, or is it crashing here, or is it crashing here? So let's do that one more time. Execute. Okay, it comes there. And there you go, the result is infinity. That's when, okay, it's not crashing here, but it is crashing at the point where the result equals infinity, and that's also fine. But after that, it is going to the response DDO, and that is when it is crashing. So we have a problem. Now there are many ways we can solve this. I'm going to take the easier way. I'll go here and I will check. Okay, what I'll do is I'll do a simple thing. I will say if result is equal to infinity. Hey, how come I'm not getting the infinity value? Let me see. Equals double dot is infinity. Hold on. I think I can do something like this. Right. Okay, if it is infinity, then what I want to do is I want to say result is equal to 0.0. Okay, and division operation failed, right? Divide by 0 attempted. And I want to say response, I want to say response.dto.success is equal to false, so I mean, yes, the API call was successful, but the operation itself was a failure. So we could use that, so you could try to use that, and then I'm just going to say return response.dto. So let's see if this works. So let's run this, and I'm going to go to divide by two numbers, try it out. It's already 0 and 0, but I'll just make it like this, execute. Okay, so here I'm going to say step over if double dot infinity. Yeah, oh, there you go, it is working. We got that. And now the response DTO says, hey, division operation failed, divided by 0 attempted, result is equal to 0, success is false. So it looks nice, and then we can click continue, and we are no longer crashing. Last time we were getting like an exception. Now again, there are many ways to deal with it. The exception was actually about deserialization, so nothing to do with actually division by 0, even because that actually worked just fine with the infinity value. But I didn't actually catch that exception. I simply bypassed that exception from coming by simply checking if the number was infinity in the first place. Now you might attempt a different way of doing this. For example, you could always check in the beginning after line number 56 if the second number is 0, and if it is, you can simply stop it from executing at all. That's your call. There are always multiple roads that lead to a solution in programming. Now for me, this one seems to work fine, so I have that working. So it's ultimately, I have built an API that performs basic math operation. I want to check if it works for 0 and 0 as well, right? I want to do that. So let's see what happens if you try to do a 0 by 0. Okay. Yeah, just curious. Oh, oh, it's a nan. Oh, that's a problem. I think again we'll get like a D. Yeah, I think we got that exception again. I'm so glad I tested it. Let's just update the code then. I'm really glad I tested it, right? This is where you have to start doing unit testing. We will worry about that some other time, but right now I'm not going to get into unit testing for now. Okay, so let's go here, and I am going to check. I'm just going to say r double dot is nan. So that's what happened. Okay, all right, checking for nan. Okay, there you go. So that checks for NA. I think those are the two cases where things can go wrong. So let's just run this, try this again. Okay, there we go. Divide by two numbers, try it out, execute. Okay, there we go. Looks good. Very nice. And we have a nice response. Success is false, result is 0, and division operation failed, divide by 0 attempted. That seems to be okay for our purposes. So there you go, folks. That is what I wanted to show you. I've gone ahead, and that's what I wanted to show you. A simple calculator with endpoints for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And of course, we also, as an added bonus, we implemented some basic checking for divide by 0 and added an appropriate message for that as well. So that is what this video is about. Now, in the next one, we'll try to build a simple web app. As always, we will be using Razor, right? Because that's the only front end I know right now. So we'll use Razor web pages to build a simple UI to send two numbers and then show the response in the output. Okay.